I spoke to a man who said he's more worried than ever about our country. I talked to another guy just 2 days ago, and he said he is getting so frustrated because nobody seems to realize how late it is to start addressing these vitally important issues that are facing America. Our politicians, if they don't wake up and finally start doing something, it ain't going to be good. You know what? I couldn't agree more with the guy I talked to just 2 days ago. Now, he's a bit of a maverick, and he's on the TV program tonight. He's going to be here to talk about our national priorities. His Texas congressman and former presidential candidate, Ron Paul. Congressman, you're in the House. What did you think when you... apologizing for... that's the priority today?
I think you have it right. I think the apology ought to be to the American taxpayers today. It reminded me of a little bumper sticker I have in my office. It says, "Don't steal. The government hates the competition." So we ought to be apologizing for stealing from the American people. So yes, these are the kind of things. Yesterday, to tell you the truth, I was on an airplane when the suspension bills came up, and a lot of this gets passed under suspension. But we had 45 bills like that yesterday. I mean, I need a huge staff just to keep them in line and figure out what's going on.
I mean, I'm so tired. I am so tired. And I know the average person is. You know, I started the program saying, is this the first time that you sat down today? Most people, it is the first second that they've had for themselves, and then they got to turn on the television and see, we're dealing with what today? What are you guys doing?
And you know, and this is associated with a loss of a standard of living. The standard of living of Americans are going down, especially for the middle income, low middle income, and poor people. It's going down much more rapidly than those in the high income bracket. You know, there is a transfer of wealth with the monetary system that we have, and they are suffering, and that is why they're really hurting. But they usually see this generalized when they go to the gas pump and they say, "Oh, you know, oil prices are too high. We have to do something," without analyzing it and figure out why is it that our dollar isn't buying much. Instead of saying prices are high, people should always ask the question, why is our dollar not buying what it used to buy?
They don't understand. The average person doesn't understand that because nobody in government is going down this road, really honestly, with an exception of you, nobody's going down the road of, it's not that things are going up, it's that the dollar is going down because of the policies of this stupid Congress and administration.
Yeah, but you know, in spite of all the pessimism in this recent speech that I did that you have referred to, it's rather pessimistic and we're in for big trouble, but I really conclude with some optimism. And I like to find, you know, seek out some optimism. And in the last year that I've been out on the road, the young people, the college kids have listened to this message. Obviously, it's probably not the majority yet, but a lot of them have joined in, and they're interested in monetary policy. It's been very encouraging to me.
I have to tell you, I have the same, when I go out and I speak to people on the street, I have the same optimism, and I also feel even a bigger sense of urgency to express to people in Washington, your time is running out here. You are constantly re-inflicting and reopening wounds, and the American people are waking up. But you know, today with the slavery thing, I have been covering for 2 days immigration again, and 13-year-olds that have been busted in meat packing plants, 13 years old, working 17 hours a day for a meat packing company. The meat packers didn't go to jail. The illegal immigrants went to jail. This is slavery, and it all ties in, I believe, to, again, the global corporations making money on the backs of the poor, the backs on the people who can have the least and smallest voice among us. Right or wrong?
You know, I think you're absolutely right that the people who are causing the trouble today should be apologizing. We should be correcting our mistakes. A lot of people do it inadvertently because they have a lack of understanding of how economics work. But when it comes to these apologies, you know, why should you and I make the apologies? Why should I apologize for you through a vote in the Congress? At the same time, you know, we personally weren't responsible, you know, for that. I don't think in a moral sense that we're capable of doing this, and you indicated that we should move on. I mean, here we have the opportunity. It looks like there's a possibility of a minority candidate winning the presidency. I mean, even though we might not agree with the politics, we should look at that as great progress.
Yeah, I think it is. Quite honestly, it is affront to, I'm a Christian, it's affront to the principles of Christianity. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. This country, half of this country, fought the other half and died to free and to say, enough, this is wrong. We were washed in blood. Good heavens. There's nothing worse than slavery. Why are we doing this and concentrating on this now?
You know, when I think of so much of what goes on, even in the presidential campaign currently, there's a lot of distraction on purpose in order to avoid it. You know, you hear this campaign every night, every program. You know, I don't know why the people keep listening, but they do, and it's every station puts this on.
Congressmen note that, but they're not talking about anything. When's the last time you heard any of these politicians really talk about the border? When did they really talk about something that made any sense on the economy? They'll talk about more giveaways. They haven't talked about $6 billion deficit now. $486 billion is what Bush will leave in this year alone, along with this Congress. Nobody will talk about it except to blame each other for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and I have to give your station some credit that you have made an effort to do this, but for the most part, it is a distraction because they don't want to talk about the dollar. You're willing to talk about the dollar, but others don't understand it. They don't care. They don't want to challenge the Federal Reserve. How can you do this? And they think that it's, it contradicts everything I've learned in college. So they're not interested in it. So it's philosophic as well as political.
I don't believe that anymore. I really don't. I don't believe that I believe there are irresponsible people in Washington and they're focused on other things. But you have a responsibility. If you're in Congress or you're in the White House, you're in the Senate, I don't care where you are. If you are serving the American people, you have a responsibility to figure out how the dollar works. You have a responsibility. I mean, and how hard is it? We all learned in Germany, you print more money, and all of a sudden you're buying bread with a wheelbarrow. I mean, look at, what's his name, Mugabe, and his economy right now. You don't need to go to college. I didn't. I get it.
You know, and I won't say the person's name, but one time this subject came up in a hearing, and I mentioned about the backing of the dollar and the gold, and this individual afterwards came up and said to me, is the dollar not backed by gold? And that person was on the banking committee. So that's where we are. Some people
I don't want to hear that. We'll be back with Congressman Ron Paul in just a second. Jeez.